Hello and welcome to this second episode of Petrolheart, the automotive podcast that is a safe haven for petrolheads. But rather than petrolheads, we should all be petrolhearts, because within the wretched nature of our soul, there is a road, and that road is the wind, and we have to drive the wild wind. But enough about the wild wind. Let us focus on today's topic, which is what makes you a petrolhead? Now, to answer that, we need to answer the far broader and more complex and frankly worse question: what is a petrolhead? And is a petrolhead the same thing as a car enthusiast and an automotive enthusiast? I don't think so. But you may think so, and that's okay, because no matter how much this topic is talked about, discussed, or debated at length, there is no final answer, only a temporary truth we manage to teach ourselves to believe, because it's the only way we can keep ourselves functioning. So let us delve into this maddening and tempting study of what it means to be a petrolhead. Let us start by saying, I think many people use the term petrolhead for any kind of automotive or car enthusiast. I am against that. I am against that in a very polite manner, because a petrolhead, by the etymology of the word, is excluding diesel vehicles and is excluding basically electric vehicles, and is excluding conceptually all currents of automotive passion that do not revolve around performance. And that's a big point here. A petrolhead, according to what I think, and what other people also share that thought and that belief with me, a petrolhead is someone who has their automotive passion rooted in performance, as in track days, as in circuit driving, rally, in short, in motorsport. Their idea of the ideal car can be represented with a race car. And that is what a petrolhead is, for me at least. So, where does that leave us then? Should we alienate other car enthusiasts that maybe are not into performance? No. I firmly believe we should stop using petrolhead as an umbrella term and start using the term, which I admit it's slightly cumbersome, but I will sacrifice comfort in the spirit of specificity, and that term is automotive enthusiast. Or, I don't know, there has to be some kind of shorthand or nickname for it. Because using petrolhead as an umbrella term seems slightly unfair to the petrolheads. It's like I'm appropriating their signature nomenclature, and that is not a good thing to do. That is not the right thing to do. And although we have 20, well, not 20, but we have about, well, a lot of time on the clock yet to be disposed of via my voice, I feel as if I have already answered the question, what makes you a petrolhead? and that is being into cars and performance cars. But that's not the whole story. You see, even that is devoid of specificity and lacks definition. And that is the problem with this subject. It is so devoid of definition, it is hard to treat it in an orderly fashion. I'm just squabbling about, hoping to get a grasp on it, but this topic is liquid. It's molten aluminum that melts through my brain as I think about it. It pulls down into my heart, and when it solidifies, it'll take its shape. It will be a grim reminder that I am a petrolheart more than I am a petrolhead. Because in my head, I am not just about cars or performance. In my head, I like a lot of things. I even like hypermiling. I love hypermiling. But I don't love it with my heart, I love it with my mind. And that's an important distinction. I don't feel a thrill when I hypermile. I feel accomplished for sure. I feel like I'm playing a video game, a platformer. Because that's what it is, it's a game. I want to squeeze out the most energy out of the least amount of fuel, and I want to drive moderately fast while I do it. So in that sense, I do love hypermiling. Just not in the same way I love performance cars, or I love my car, which will be discussed in another episode. And that is the thing. This topic in itself could span 1,000 hours of conference and would never arrive to a conclusion if we don't determine a starting point. So I'm taking a break from from saying what makes you a petrolhead, and let us define what a petrolhead is, rightfully so and specifically so. Continuing with this topic, I'd like to start by saying the umbrella term is automotive enthusiast, as I've said before, and that encompasses everything from trucks to cars to off-roaders, even everything that could be considered a relative to the automobile or the motor car. As I've said, trucks, lorries, big rigs, whatever, even stationary machinery is part of that culture. And I think that's what makes an automotive enthusiast. And not just the cars, the vehicles, the machines, but the people that build, design, and engineer them. And furthermore, the people behind the wheel, the people in the control room, the people that operate them. So that we've got ourselves a holy trinity of creator, creation, and wielder. We have the blacksmith, the swordsman, and the blade itself. And that holy trinity intertwines itself in a sea of symbiotic synergy. And that is what makes a car enthusiast, someone who appreciates those three branches of the tree of petrol. And I use petrol in a metaphorical sense, in a lame, or rather a layman's attempt to sound poetic. Because let's face it, poetry is not my strength. Were poetry be my strength, I would not be recording this. I would be situated elsewhere, probably studying it, and earning a liberal arts degree while my parents toil away in despair at my career choice. But I'm not. I'm not a poet. I'm not a messiah. I'm not even a messenger. I'm just a person with some amount of free time and some thoughts in their head. So, an automotive enthusiast we've established likes all things car and vehicle related, from hypermiling to monster trucks. And then from then on it branches out. So, what makes you a petrolhead? Well, if we go by the definition earlier, you have to chase performance, prefer handling over power, and generally have a more driver's perspective or driver-like perspective of life. And that is the big cultural difference. And that is why sometimes American enthusiasts don't get along well with enthusiasts from, or rather, American muscle enthusiasts don't get along well with Japanese import enthusiasts, because a Japanese car is not meant to be modified right out of the box. A Japanese car is meant to be driven, then modified. An American muscle car is meant to be modified and then taken to the drag strip or a long stretch of road. And that cultural paradigm, that really shapes the way the car in itself and the driver and the engineer, creator, mechanic, tinker is seen by the car society, but the automotive society. Now, being a petrolhead is something I consider myself to be. I consider myself one. But I am not just a petrolhead. I like machinery. I like trucks. I even like off-roading a bit. I like car culture that is not rooted in performance, whether it's a straight line or a winding road in the mountains of Japan. I am not just a JDM guy or a USDM guy. I am not even just about performance cars. In all truth, I like lowriders. I think the attention to detail those vehicles have, even if it negates the purpose of a vehicle being driven as what makes the vehicle what it is. It's just mind-boggling. The art behind it, the culture behind it. And I'm talking about the show car type of lowriders. And then back to the hopping and dancing, because that's what they do. They are dancing cars, that's what they are. Even that culture is so amazingly fascinating. It's fascinating because they're not competing in something that's objectively quantifiable. No lap times, no quarter mile time slips, no 0 to 60 times, no autocross course records. No, it's just subjective and qualitative instead of quantitative. And it's akin to the early stages of drift where style would be judged by a person. And now drifting, or at least professional drifting, is judged by angle of entry, closeness to the wall, speed, and then some style points here and there, but it's mostly about the quantifiable aspects of the drift, what make it a proper drift. While in lowrider culture, it's the qualitative whole of the performance the car puts on that makes the car's value as a social object. And yes, there are a bunch of lowriders that compete in hopping height. Those that are like extreme kind of hoppers. that only bounce from the front or from the back, and those do compete in height. But even then, it is not. It is completely different in nature to anything else in car culture, in other s- sections or in other niches of car culture, and it's fascinating. Another aspect of car culture that I like to talk about right now is donks and swangas. Again, super impractical, non high performance, actually really low performance. It's more of a visual style. But those people are still car enthusiasts. They're just not that excited about performance. Actually, they might be against any type of performance. And you know what? To an extent, they are right. Performance is useless half the time because you're not going to be racing everyone on your daily commute. But you can, for some stupid reason, drive a donk with 33-inch wheels. So, and that is legal in the United States. So again, it's all in the eye of the driver, of the creator, of the car itself. There is no limit to what humanity, or I would say automotive humanity, automotive society, will come up with. From stands to Basasoku to Swangas, which is kind of like donks, but way more bling and way more gangsta hip hop culture behind it. It's like kind of like some kind of Basasoku, but instead of being a cartoon of performance cars, it's a cartoon of rappers' vehicles, which is weird. Now, to recap, because we are running out of time and we're near the 20-minute mark, a petrolhead is someone who likes cars, likes driving, and likes the engineering behind them, and also strives for driving excellence and good technique and skill behind the wheel. A petrolhead is characterized by going on track days, having a dedicated track car, even if that person doesn't have a daily driver or daily driving their track car. A petrolhead is someone who likes to race, but not all car enthusiasts are petrolheads. Take hype milers, for example. They are car enthusiasts. After all, they work on cars and they drive cars. But they don't do it for the speed, they do it for the MPGs. So, what I'm saying here is that you're not necessarily a petrolhead, but you can still be an automotive enthusiast. And as long as people keep using the term petrolhead as a blanket for everyone that kinda likes cars, from the guy that says, "Ooh, cars are cool," to the guy that says, "I'm gonna buy an Alpha even though I'm gonna be drowning in debt." That's not what a petrolhead should be. A petrolhead is a person who likes cars, likes driving, refines their driving, refines their mechanical and inventive skills for the car. Someone who is dedicated to performance. Otherwise, you're just in another category of what the universe of automotive culture is. And that, folks, has been all for today. And while this topic could go on for hours, I suggest you go think about it yourselves. And if you come to the same conclusion, great. If you don't, we can discuss it later. In the meantime, I do have to say farewell. The clock is nearly reaching 20 minutes, and I have to say goodbye.